I'd now like to move to the opening plenary session of this conference and introduce to you Mr. Bill Rammell, who is the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Bedfordshire in the UK. Bill Rammell is a former Vice-Chancellor of the former Deputy Vice-Chancellor of the University of Plymouth, and he's also a former Higher Education Minister in the Labour government under Gordon Brown.
Thank you, Alison, and it's a real pleasure to be here in Vietnam, an enchanting and increasingly significant international player. And it's great to be with all of you here today. I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to kick off this morning's session looking at higher education for the 21st century, and in particularly to discuss the university for the 21st century. I think it reflects well on the British Council that we start this particular global education dialogue event by rising above our day-to-day concerns and challenges and try to set our sights towards the future. And I will be honest with you, I think that sometimes in our field of work we're too content to look backwards or find contentment in reliving yesterday's debates, challenges and issues. And perhaps that sometimes comes with the territory of academia, but perhaps also it portrays an unwillingness sometimes to engage with and recognise the need for change, which I think has always been there for us, but is even more so today. In this week where we've marked the half-century since President Kennedy's assassination, I'd like to quote from a speech he gave in Germany just a few months before his death. He said, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future." And I think that was very profound and very correct. And there's a warning in that in higher education that we need to keep that in mind. But I am by nature a natural optimist. I think we can be fairly certain of our challenges in higher education, institutional, national and global, and the changes that we need to face and embrace in developing the university for the 21st century. But before I do that, I'd like quickly as well to recognise the Foreign Trade University in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, a partner for my university, the University of Bedfordshire, and their commitment to innovation and change. As Professor Dr. Chow, President of FTU, says in his presidential words of welcome, FTU provides a unique educational experience in an environment that prepares students not only for the challenges of today, but for a world that has yet to be imagined. Now, I didn't benefit from the FTU experience myself, but I hope that my remarks today demonstrate that I have some of that ability to predict a world that is yet to be imagined. So, a university for the 21st century, how will it survive and thrive? How will it meet and raise the aspirations of its students? And how will it meet and deliver on national and international ambitions? In answering those questions, I'm going to pick out three key developments. Firstly, the university community, the partnership between student, teacher and university. Secondly, the importance of what I call smart skills and the imperative for universities to nurture students as global citizens, which I think increasingly is the challenge for all of us wherever our universities are located. And thirdly, the role of the university as the last great civic actor. Huge opportunities for us, but only if we meet our many challenges. I think it's important to stress that these three developments are intertwined and interrelated, and they must all benefit and gain strength from one another. But let's start with the idea of a community and the role of students within it. The idea of, and indeed the term, university is, as you'll be aware, long-standing. If we are developing an institution that is fit for purpose for this century, then we have to explore further what we mean by university. For me, the idea of a community is central to the university of experience for the future. And at the heart of that community is fundamentally the student. Every single member of the community has to be focused on the student, their experience, their challenges, their opportunities, and their successes. And I view those relationships between student, teacher, and university within the frame, if you like, of a social contract. In exchange for paying a fee, and that's the system that operates in my country at my university, in exchange for paying a fee, and for me that fee is a payment to join a university, the university community, you become a partner in an experience that enriches, stretches and develops you in a way that no other experience can. At Bedfordshire, at my university, it is a community based upon values. We have to guarantee, in a real sense, an experience that nurtures a democratic citizenship, academic capacity and contribution to society. And we can only live up to that promise through a relentless focus on quality and delivering on our guarantee to students. Within that contract and guarantee is how I view the university of the 21st century, one that is focused on smart skills, civic engagement, and prioritises the idea of community. If we were to define what we mean by community, then we'd soon start discussing networks and relationships, and we'd probably get on to our contemporary understanding of global communities, powered as they are by online platforms. And when we talk of social networking, we immediately think of Facebook or Twitter, and I'm aware of the ongoing debate here regarding the balance between security and freedom of the internet. But traditional social network theory focuses on the ties that link actors within networks, their social capital, and how it is used in relationships. The challenge for universities, and it's a challenge that forces universities to be at their best, is to be at the heart of the best social network possible. It's up to us to create, to strengthen and enable those relationships for our students. And it's only our option if we are truly committed to ensuring that students emerge from their time with us as global citizens, comfortable with a changing environment and ready to contribute, to lead and to make a genuine difference. There are, I think, many relationships that help form that community, that builds those networks, that gives real value to our students. For example, the peer relationships they form that will last them through a lifetime, mixing and learning from fellow students from as diverse a background as possible. And at my university, and this is increasingly a global trend, very much an international community of students. The sharing of experience, knowledge and empathy with a personal tutor. The academic and intellectual relationships with the dean, the lecturer, the course leader, and so on. And the opportunities and relationships gained through extracurricular opportunities, internships, work placements with guest and visiting lecturers through the Students' Union and international exchanges, and how the university both brings in and signposts potential employers and next steps. It's these relationships, together with the intellectual challenge of higher level learning, that I think provide the smart skills needed to succeed as a 21st century global citizen. And those are increasingly the skills and the mindset that employers are looking from good graduates. To succeed in the future, universities will have to invest intelligently, I think, in those relationships and ensure that they fit around the student. Of course, the challenges for students is that they also invest in getting the most out of those relationships, out of those experiences. Very much the more you put in, the more you get out. To achieve that, I firmly believe that the university of the future must view students as partners in that experience, partners in the real university community. And for me, the students as partner is students as citizen. In England, and indeed in other markets, there's a growing emphasis on students as consumers. Now, I happen to reject those labels of consumer or customer or commodity. The very idea of customer and provider runs against the idea, in my view, of a university community. But that is not to say that the best elements of customer service, feedback and interaction should be ignored. Far, far from it. I believe in students as partners in all aspects of our decision-making, nevertheless. That's why at Bedfordshire we've taken the decision, a sector-leading decision within England, to bring our student union president onto the executive board of the university as a full participating member. And by starting at the top in this way, it gives, I think, a firm lead on how we should work with students as partners and co-creators across our university community. And where we lead, I think others will follow as the university of the future very much takes shape. When we talk of the university of the future, many critics and commentators immediately jump to the conclusion that technology is the answer. And it would be completely wrong-headed of me to ignore the potential and indeed the huge advantages which come with a greater role for the use of technology. But I do take a slightly counterintuitive perspective on the role of technology in the classroom, and how it can enhance the learning experience. Or perhaps, to be more precise, how it can enhance the student experience. I'm a firm believer in making better use of technology, academically, building networks, in broadening horizons and references. But for me, and I believe for the University of the 21st century, the use of technology should create the necessary space for improving and enhancing the on-campus experience. The two very much have to be linked. Or to put it another way, it should create the space to strengthen what the university and the student do together as part of that university community, with a focus on those relationships and experiences that I mentioned earlier. In addition, it gives us the space to do more with that time traditionally set aside for lectures and seminars. Just to give you one example, at Bedfordshire we're moving forward with our scheme of peer-assisted learning leaders, students supporting each other and learning cooperatively under the guidance from students from the year above. But to go back to technology, and specifically MOOCs, massive open online courses, and their role in the University of the 21st century, my instinctive view is that we're seeing, bluntly, too much hype at present, not backed by real substance. Certainly they have a part to play, but I think it has to be something new, something fresh and enriching for both the learner and the teacher. If we just replicate the current lecture hall experience, but do so remotely, then I don't see how that provides a quality student experience. And that's why the way in which we use space created by technology, I think, is so important. As I've stated, I believe in students as partners in the university experience, and even more so as we head into the future. Key to that is the process, collaborative with fellow students, teachers, and the whole academic community. And I am wary of any approach, and that is potentially true for MOOCs, that plays to the idea of passive students as single consumers of a single product. If we end up simply further embedding the transmitter-receiver relationship, then I think that will have been a huge missed opportunity. In fact, a recent warning sign was the decision by San Jose State University, an early adopter, to suspend its MOOC project with Udacity because of poor pass and completion rates by both enrolled and non-enrolled students. We need to look, I think, at the entire learning space and how it can challenge and stimulate both students and teachers in a genuinely collaborative process. Technology has changed and will continue to change our relationships, our workplaces, and our educational models. Tyler Cowen, the American economist, author, and much-read blogger, argues in his new book, Average is Over, that intelligent machines and smart software make much of what is done by traditional workforces, and by implication traditional educators, redundant. We will see a new breed of worker prosper, those that can both understand and interpret the ever-developing computer and technological systems, and know when and where the human should step in and bring intuition and intuitiveness to the task at hand. Now, as a Vice-Chancellor of a university with a strong and research-intensive computer science department, it's not in my interest to fight or argue against that. However, to be serious and to take a wider perspective, Professor Cowen makes the valuable argument that it's the ability to manipulate, to analyse and use information and data that will set students, graduates and workers apart. And I think it is up to universities to concentrate on nurturing those skills, the smart skills that I've mentioned, as the added value that we provide within and in addition to academic disciplines. It is the smart skills that will give graduates the edge in markets and workplaces in the future. For example, the ability to be enterprising, which comes from understanding human behaviour, how to manipulate, analyse and use data, the ability to understand different cultures, markets and motivations, and to be comfortable in different situations and make genuinely informed decisions. These smart skills, a mix of psychology, general intellectual capital, cultural understanding and analytical know-how, are the tools for 21st century citizens. It's one of the reasons that I've prioritised outward mobility as part of the student experience at Bedfordshire. So, this summer, for the first time, 150 of our home students visited China for a summer school, the largest such UK-China university cultural exchange, massively oversubscribed, and we're looking to expand the programme in the coming years. and even more students will go next summer, and I'm keen to explore further such opportunities and partnerships. Such schemes, I think, do develop the confidence, the intercultural and communication skills and personal resilience that will be so valuable and of so much value in the future. The university of the 21st century has to make a promise to its students. It has to make that social contract that their time at university is the catalyst for transforming and changing and opening up the rest of their lives. There has to be, I think, no question that the time they spend with the university is the best, the only route to grow as a citizen and nurture those smart skills and tools needed to make the maximum contribution that the student and the graduate can to society. And that brings me on to my final key development, the role of university as, in a real sense, the last great civic actor. In the West in particular, we have seen a steady erosion of trust in our great and enduring institutions. I think that stems from a combination of factors, but relates to a perceived lack of relevance, failure to reform and respond to public interest, and how they reflect in modern society. To varying degrees, this has happened in relation to newspapers, to churches, to politics and parliaments, and indeed all forms of civic actors. To my mind, what they have had in common was that in many cases they looked much the same at the turn of the 20th century as they did at the turn of the 19th century. We could say the same for our universities. That's why the way we use technology and the way we use the space that it opens up and creates is so important in being fit and facing up to the future. Universities are one of the few, perhaps one could argue the only civic actor that has connections across all sectors and actors. We have a close relationship with government, with the state. No matter what our national funding regimes are, I still believe in our role as a public good, helping meet national ambitions and aspirations. We are strong regional and national economic forces. For example, in our region, for every £1 million of revenue that comes into the university, a further 1.2 million in output is generated. If you removed universities from their regions, the impact economically would be disastrous. We work closely with our students from primary school age right through to being alumni. Now, what other kind of institution has such a long-standing relationship with citizens? I pick out these examples to highlight the unique role that universities have and will have as the century progresses. And as I said earlier, I'm an optimist. Higher education and universities will become more important, not less, during this coming century, but only if we get it right and meet the challenges that I've set out. Of course, there are many other challenges. The role of innovation and knowledge exchange, particularly across borders and across boundaries, how transnational educational models will evolve and develop and ensure the best student experience possible, and the importance of lifelong learning, to name but just three. And I know that these challenges are as live here in Southeast Asia as they are across the whole of the higher education world. I picked this up in discussions with our partners in Malaysia, Bedfordshire University College and Life College, and in Singapore with Kaplan Education. I mentioned earlier our China Summer School, and this coming year, some of our UK students will spend time as well with our partner institutions in Vietnam, and I'm confident that that opportunity and that initiative will be very popular. Great for those students in developing some of the skills I've discussed, but also I hope for students who are here as well. Higher education, as a crucible for challenge, curiosity and creativity, enables citizens to look beyond borders and to be international in both outlook and deed. The fundamental disciplines of discovery, knowledge exchange and research should genuinely know no boundaries. And that is a particular challenge in this part of the world as economic drivers see greater mobility of students, professionals and labour force between states, and how education systems can better reflect and support this. And we should view this as, I think, a big opportunity as much as we respect it as being a significant challenge. But in referring back to the key developments and challenges I've set out for a successful 21st century university, the role of the community with students as partners, the importance of smart skills and the civic role, and the importance that we think and act globally. If universities fail to accept the challenge of influencing, of preparing citizens for global society and economy, then frankly, who else is going to face up to and meet that challenge? I started by quoting one American president, and I'll refer to another one as I close. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, "The best thing about the future is that it comes only one day at a time." That is undoubtedly true, and Lincoln was conveying the control we have over our destiny and the ability that we have to plan. I've attempted to look beyond one day at a time and what the longer term might mean for all of our universities, but we can't wait for the university of the future. We have to start meeting those challenges both here and now. I think we have huge opportunities. We have immense capacity to face up to those opportunities, and I think we help ourselves by genuinely engaging in progressive dialogue and discussion. Thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to contributing to this debate. Thank you.